From the smoky bars of Oakland to the bloody highways of America, Ralph "Sonny" Barger carved out a story embedded in violence, loyalty, and rebellion. As the most feared leader of the Hells Angels, Barger transformed a group of restless bikers into an international outlaw empire. He wasn't the club's founder, but he became its most feared figure, commanding loyalty with an iron fist and a brutal code of vengeance. Barger's life was a chaotic storm of street battles, bloody rivalries, and criminal activities that terrorized the nation. Whether organizing deadly biker wars or defeating federal agents, he thrived in a world where power was won by force. To his enemies, he was a monster. To his followers, he was a king. This is the story of the man who ruled the Hells Angels with unmatched brutality and left behind a legacy of blood. A rough start, Sonny Barger's troubled childhood. Ralph Hubert Barger Jr. was born on October 8, 1938, in Modesto, California. His early life was anything but easy. When he was just 4 years old, his mother abandoned the family, leaving him and his sister Shirley in the care of their father. Ralph Barger Sr., a heavy drinker, worked as a day laborer and struggled to provide the stability young Sonny desperately needed. They lived in Oakland, California, a city that shaped Sonny's early years. Without a mother's care and with a father who was often absent or drunk, Sonny grew up fast. He learned early on that survival meant toughness. He frequently got into fights and trouble, dropping out of school by the 10th grade. His life in the rough neighborhoods of Oakland taught him that power came from physical strength and fearlessness, lessons he carried into adulthood. He took to the streets, finding refuge in the roar of motorcycles and the freedom they represented. Sonny's early life set the stage for the man he would become, a leader who thrived in chaos, someone who understood that loyalty was earned through fear and respect. His tough upbringing molded him into a man who would later lead the most feared biker gang in history. The birth of Brotherhood, founding the Oakland Panthers. In 1956, seeking a sense of belonging, Sonny Barger and a group of military veterans founded the Oakland Panthers, a motorcycle club born out of a desire for freedom and brotherhood. These men were ex-soldiers looking for brotherhood and excitement after the unbending structure of military life. They founded on the back of roaring Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The Oakland Panthers quickly became known for their rebellious spirit and wild behavior. But Barger wanted more. This wasn't enough for him. The club disbanded after a short time, but Barger's hunger for something bigger didn't fade. He started riding with other bikers, including Don Boots Reeves, who wore a patch from the no longer active Nomads chapter of the Hells Angels in North Sacramento. This patch sparked an idea in Barger's mind, an idea that would change his life forever. He saw an opportunity to build something greater, something more dangerous and thrilling. Sonny Barger's desire for power and control found its outlet when he began riding with other Hells Angels chapters. By 1958, the Oakland chapter of the Hells Angels was born, with Barger at the top. He didn't just want to be part of the club. He wanted to dominate it, and that's exactly what he did. The rise of the Hells Angels. Barger becomes a legend. Although many believe Sonny Barger founded the Hells Angels, the club was actually created in 1948 in Fontana, California. However, when Barger became president of the Oakland chapter in 1958, he transformed it into the most powerful and popular chapter in the world. Under his leadership, the Hells Angels evolved from a loose group of motorcycle enthusiasts into a terrifying criminal organization. At first, Barger and the Oakland chapter were unaware that other Hells Angels chapters existed. But once they realized the potential of unifying under one banner, Barger took control. He used his natural charisma, ruthlessness, and leadership skills to bring the different chapters together under a common code of violence and loyalty. The members of the Oakland chapter were described as honest blue-collar or unskilled workers looking for excitement. But under Barger's rule, they became something more dangerous. They became enforcers, willing to do whatever it took to protect their club and its reputation. Barger didn't just lead with words, he led with action, often putting himself on the front lines of the violence that came to define the Hells Angels. Altamont Free Concert, the riot that defined an era. One of the darkest chapters in Sonny Barger's life came on December 6, 1969, at the Altamont Free Concert, headlined by the Rolling Stones. The Hells Angels were hired to provide security for the event and paid with $500 worth of beer instead of money. It was a decision that would lead to chaos and death. The atmosphere at Altamont was tense from the start. The Angels, drunk and aggressive, patrolled the concert, clashing with the crowd. The violence escalated when a young man named Meredith Hunter pulled a gun near the stage. In the resulting chaos, Hell's Angel Alan Pissarro stabbed Hunter to death, an act that was captured on film. Barger later defended the Angels' actions, claiming they were protecting the musicians. However, the incident damaged the reputation of the Hells Angels forever. The Altamont riot became a symbol of the darker side of the 1960s counterculture, and Sonny Barger was right in the middle of it. The incident established the club's image as brutal enforcers, willing to kill to maintain order, or their version of it, a life of crime, drugs, explosions, and prison. Sonny Barger's life was marked by a long list of criminal activities, including drug trafficking, racketeering, and even bombings. In 1979, he and his wife were among 33 Hells Angels indicted under the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations RICO Act. This massive case involved charges of drug trafficking and violent crimes, including 2 car bombings that targeted law enforcement officers. The charges painted a picture of the Hells Angels as a criminal empire, with Barger at the top. Federal agents raided multiple chapters across California, arresting Barger and his associates. Barger served time in prison, but even behind bars, his influence over the club remained strong. He was seen as untouchable, a man who could not be broken by the law. Barger's time in prison did little to erode his power. He continued to be the face of the Hells Angels, orchestrating moves from within the prison walls. His ability to maintain control, even under intense government scrutiny, made him one of the most feared men in the biker world. War against the Outlaws, a bloody clash. By the late 1970s, the Hells Angels had expanded far beyond California, opening chapters across the United States. This rapid growth brought power, but also powerful enemies. The most violent and deadly rivalry was with the Outlaws Motorcycle Club, a conflict that would turn into a blood-soaked war. The clash began in 1974 when 3 members of the Hells Angels Lowell, Massachusetts chapter were brutally murdered in Florida. The killings were ordered by Outlaws leader James Big Jim Nolan as revenge for an earlier fight where an outlaw was severely beaten at a New Year's Eve party in New York. Tensions between the 2 clubs exploded after this massacre. By November 1978, Sonny Barger had allegedly issued a chilling order to Hells Angels chapters across the country: kill any outlaw on sight. This command sparked a nationwide war that turned highways and cities into battlegrounds. Shootings broke out in bars, parking lots, and on the open road. Bombings targeted clubhouses and homes, leaving bloodshed behind them. The streets became places of terror, with both clubs determined to devour each other. For Barger, this war wasn't just about revenge. It was about dominance. He wanted to send a clear message that the Hells Angels were the supreme outlaw motorcycle club, untouchable and lethal. Under his leadership, the Hells Angels were not just a biker gang. They were an army, ruthless and willing to do whatever it took to crush their enemies. The war left dozens dead and became one of the most violent chapters in outlaw biker history, cementing Barger's terrifying legacy. Sonny Barger's legacy: a rebel until the end. On June 29, 2022, Sonny Barger died at the age of 83 after a battle with cancer. His death marked the end of an era. To many, he was a symbol of freedom and rebellion, a man who lived life on his terms. To others, he was a violent criminal who left behind a legacy of death and destruction. Barger's influence on biker culture is undeniable. He took a small motorcycle club and turned it into a global empire, one built on loyalty, fear, and violence. His life was a reminder of the attractiveness of the outlaw lifestyle, a life lived fast, dangerously, and without apology. Even in death, Sonny Barger remains a legend. His story is one of brutality, power, and the undying quest of freedom, making him the most infamous Hells Angel in history.